Sorry, all set.
Okay, good evening, everyone. Could we please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, welcome to our May 26th City Council meeting. If I could ask the clerk to please call the roll.
Councilman Gary Donovan.
Councilman Gary Donovan, Councilman at Large, present.
Councilwoman Colleen O'Connor.
Councilwoman Colleen O'Connor, Council at Large here.
Councilwoman Bridget Hosky.
Councilwoman Bridget Hosky, 1st District, present.
Councilman William X. Conlon.
Councilman William X. Conlon, 2nd District, present.
Councilwoman Liz Johnston.
Johnston, District 3, present.
Councilman Mitch Galagnano.
Councilman Mitchell Galagnano, 4th District, present.
Councilwoman Robin Hamilton.
Councilwoman Robin Hamilton, 5th District, present.
Councilman Peter Mazzaro.
Councilman Peter Massaro, 6th District, present.
Councilwoman Trenae McGee.
Councilwoman Trenae McGee, 7th District, present.
Councilwoman Crystal Finelli.
Councilwoman Crystal Finelli, 8th District, present.
Councilman Robert Bruno.
Councilman Robert Bruno, 9th District, present.
Councilman Barry Lee Cohen.
Councilman Barry Lee Cohen, 10th District, present.
And Chairman Ron Quagliani.
Councilman Ron Quagliani, Council at Large, present.
We have a full house.
Thank you, Stacy. At this time, we will before we start our regular meeting, we have a public hearing on CDA Neighborhood Assistance Act. I'll turn it over to the Finance Chair, Councilwoman Hosky.
Good evening. The time is now 7:08, and your public hearing on CDA Neighborhood Assistance Act is in session. There was a notice in the West Haven Voice. Does anyone like to say anything to the City Council in regards to this? For a second time, would anyone like to address the City Council with regard to this? For the third and final time, would anyone like to address the City Council in regards to this? Seeing none, your public hearing on the CDA Neighborhood Assistance Act is closed at 7:08.
Thank you, Councilwoman Hosky. Also, the council office did not receive any email or regular mail regarding that topic for this evening's meeting. Before we enter into public comment, I'd just like to make a couple of announcements if I can. You know, we've spent too many meetings, unfortunately, talking about the devastation that's caused not only our community, but the whole world regarding the coronavirus. I think I want to start tonight with a couple of points of pride. We did a couple of weeks ago with some of the initiatives that are taking place and the selflessness of our community members. And tonight we had 3 particular points of pride, if you will, that just, was in the paper and other media just this last week. I first want to acknowledge Kevin Ward and his team of volunteers for his special occasion vehicle parades that he's been doing all over the community and greater New Haven. It is something that brings a smile to someone's face when they have a milestone, and during these times, difficult to celebrate, but this does help know people are concerned and proud of the accomplishment that they have. So thanks to Kevin Ward and his team of volunteers. Also, thanks to the president of Notre Dame High School, President Curris, for writing a letter to Amazon, and for Amazon graciously willing to donate 950 Kindle Fires to Bailey Middle School. I think that's absolutely wonderful and a testament. Sometimes an email goes a long way. So thanks to President Curris for thinking of us in that endeavor. And last and surely not least, I'd like to mention the article that was in today's paper regarding Adopt a West Haven High School Senior. That's a collaboration between our First District Councilwoman Bridget Hosky, Kim Kenny, Rose Cambino, and Heather Shea, where community members are adopting West Haven High School seniors again to mark the milestone. It may be non-traditional this year, but we're going to do all we can do to make sure that they recognize that their accomplishments are appreciated and are significant. So thanks to all those people that continue to make us proud to live and be a West Haven resident. That said, I do want to follow up. I do want to take a moment of silence for a pillar of the community that passed away this past week, Connie Hubbard. So Connie was a councilwoman for the 9th District and also a past member of the West Haven Republican Town Committee, as well as the purchasing agent for the city of West Haven. Connie retired from the West Haven Board of Education, having worked many years as a special education paraprofessional within the school, as well as the West Haven Child Development Center. So Connie, again, was one of those selfless community members that we know. We have many of those in the city of West Haven. Also, if we could take a moment to just remember the 76 individuals that lost their lives, West Haven residents, due to the COVID coronavirus. And also a special acknowledgement and thank you to our service members and their families. I'm just passing our Memorial Day weekend for all those service members that have paid the ultimate price, members from West Haven, but throughout the United States. So if we could just take a moment, please. Thank you. So we will enter into public comment. The council office has let me know that as of 5 o'clock this evening, there was no regular mailed comments or emailed comments for public session this evening. So we will move right into the regular council meeting. And I would like a motion for the approval of the minutes of May 6th special meeting. Is there a motion?
Motion to accept.
Second it.
Councilman Cohen, Councilman Massaro. Seconded it. Is there any discussion on those minutes? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Seeing none, those minutes pass. Also like a motion for approval, the minutes of May 11th, 2020. Is there a motion to approve?
Motion to approve.
Motion to approve by Councilman Cohen. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Councilman Conlon. Councilman Bruno, is there any discussion on those minutes? Seeing none, all in I'm sorry. Councilwoman O'Connor, do you have discussion?
I thought you had said, let's pass this.
Any other discussion? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? And that motion carries. Thank you. If I could ask the clerk to pass out tonight's communications.
Okay, we have before us communication A from the Building Oversight Chairman Ken Carney in regards to resolutions concerning Washington Elementary School being assigned to the Finance Committee, Chairwoman Hosky. We have before us communication B from the tax collector in regards to overpayment refunds in relation to the governor's executive orders, which will be filed with tonight's minutes. We have before us communication C from the tax collector in regards to overpayment refunds for the month of May 2020, which will also be filed with tonight's minutes. We have communication D from Housing Specialist John Bernardo in regards to Community Development's Neighborhood Assistance Program, which is being assigned to the Finance Committee, Chairwoman Hosky. We have before us communication E from the Finance Director, Frank Saplinski, in regards to a transfer of funds for the West Haven Library, which will be assigned to the Finance Committee, Chairwoman Hosky. And we have before us Communication F from the Sustainability Committee in regards to their annual report to the City Council, which is being assigned to the Sustainability Committee, Chairwoman Finelli. And we have before us Communication G from Commissioner McCarthy in regards to street lighting utility poles being assigned to the Public Works Committee, Chairman Cohen. And we have Communication H from Mayor Nancy R. Rossi in regards to the City of West Haven's 5-year capital plan being assigned to the Finance Committee, Chairwoman Hosky. And that's all the communications we have this evening, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Stacy. The council will recess into committee meetings. The first committee is the Finance Committee, Councilwoman Hosky.
Thank you, Chairman. The time is now 7:16 and the Committee on Finance is in session. Members present are Councilman Bruno, Councilman Massaro, Councilman Cohen, Councilwoman Hamilton, and myself acting as chair. We have before us tonight Communication A from the Building Oversight Chairman, Ken Carney, in regards to resolution concerning Washington Elementary School. I would like to entertain a motion to bring this out favorably.
So moved.
Councilwoman Hamilton, can I have a second?
Second.
Councilman Massaro. Is there any discussion? Any? Ken, do you have anything you'd like to present to us?
I'm not sure how to get up my screen though. Your screen, hold on. Where's your screen? Oh. Dave, can I share something from my computer?
Ron?
That one down there.
You have to unmute yourself to talk, Ron.
Ken, I don't know. I see share content, but I don't know how you're able to do that.
Where do you see share content?
Well, I see it because I think I'm the administrator.
If you turn the host, sorry to interrupt, it's Kebby. If you turn the host role over to Ken, it should be under participant at the top. There should be an option for you to.
This isn't Zoom, Kebby. This is WebEx.
No, but you should. Yeah, but you should. I'm on WebEx too. You should be able to change the host role. Underneath the very top, there's like a file, edit, share, view, audio, participant. You should be able to change the host role up there. We use WebEx at work. That's the only reason I know.
Please talk amongst yourselves. It says it's checked. Anyone can share.
Okay.
I'm on a Mac and I don't know if it's different if you're on Windows, but I can see share up at the top of the screen.
Let's see. You guys see anything?
Yeah, Ken, at the top, it says share content, Control-Alt-D.
I've got active speaker. I've got what's this here? Control-Alt-D.
That's what it says here.
Oh, here we go. All right, Ron, you're a genius. I think I got it. What's that?
Yep, got it. Crystal helped.
Thank you, guys. I haven't used this program before. I'm used to Zoom. What? Right here? That one? Right here? Okay, so shortly after the fiasco at Bailey, where a section of roof failed, costing the city almost $100,000 unexpectedly, we decided to review all of our buildings. And without a doubt, the building in the greatest need and the most efficient building in the entire district by far turned up to be Washington School, which was built back in 1910. We sat with the architects and we went through what the building would require in order to come up to today's standards for the students that the teachers that teach there and the students that go there. Okay. Some of these things are reimbursable by the state, others are not. And in the case of the roof, which is in very poor shape and has a real possibility of following the Bailey failure, we would spend $800,000 our share after reimbursement. The masonry on the outside of the building needs to be pointed, sealed, and repaired. I showed some council people today how moisture is coming through the masonry into the rooms, most notably the library. And as a result, we have an window air conditioning system running virtually 24/7 to get rid of that moisture. We came up with a price of $1.5 million, which is not reimbursable by the state. The paving situation is in very bad shape. Most of the property is paved. The paving cannot be patched anymore. It has to be ripped up and replaced. Curbs and sidewalks have to be addressed. And based on the square footage of what's there, we came up with a price of $2 million. There are exterior hardscape stairs and walks that have to be addressed. That's $500,000. Code and accessibility upgrades. It's important to note that a student going to Washington School who is ADA cannot go to Washington School. There is no elevator to bring that student to the second or third floor. There is no ADA compliance at all in that school. The bathrooms in that school are in the basement. Students have to walk from the third floor to the basement to use the restroom. And the only way to come within compliance would be to actually build an elevator tower on the outside of the school. The age of the school prohibits us from doing work inside the school with an elevator. And based on other jobs around the state and what the architect shared with us, we think $2.5 million would give us an elevator and create an exit stair. Electrical power and lighting upgrades, $500,000. IT, we don't have Wi-Fi through the school. The walls are too thick. It's not built for Wi-Fi, obviously. That's $200,000. Security upgrades, we pegged that at $500,000. Mechanical systems is a big one in the form of controls. Right now, if you drive by that school in January or February, you will see windows open all over the school, and that's because the heat buildup in the rooms cannot be controlled. The only way to cool the room down when those radiators are pumping full blast is to open the windows. And if you look at the operations component and cost of this school, per square foot, it's more costly to the Board of Ed than any other building that we have. So $500,000 for mechanical controls. There are issues with plumbing upgrades, fire protection upgrades, the sprinklers, the fire alarm systems, sanitary and stormwater. We think there's $1 million there. And then the bathrooms would have to be redone and they would still be in the basement. That's about $1 million. And all of this requires that you work through hazardous material, which is asbestos, PCBs, and lead, which is all throughout the school, and we pegged that at $500,000. After spending $11.5 million, you would still have a school that had no air conditioning, no insulated envelope, and your operating budget would not change much at all. So once we received that information, we started looking towards what is always our best value, and that is reimbursement from the state to either build a new school or renovate the school as it is. And we put out to bid. feasibility study. It's required to be done by an architectural firm. We had 3 bids come in. Antonazzi and Associates came in at $39,500, which is the one we chose. We had 2 other bids, one at $61,500 and one at $82,500. And the purpose of the feasibility study is to price out the options and provide all the information that the state needs to actually submit an application for reimbursement to do something to the school, whether it be a new school or remodel the existing school. Presently, the school is 52,560 square feet. That doesn't change, obviously, with either option. If we do a new building, we can achieve 61,048 square feet, and that will take care of all of the programming needs for the Board of Ed. The superintendent, the assistant superintendent, and the principal worked for many, many hours over a long period of time developing and refining the program to get the smallest school possible. If we remodel the existing school, we're stuck with 64,000 square feet because there'd be roughly 3,000 square feet of wasted areas that we cannot change because of the thick walls and the way the school is constructed. The estimated construction cost for option 1, which is a new school in the parking lot of the existing school, would be roughly $32 million. And option 2, to renovate like new, would be a little over 32, close to 33 million. Now the soft cost would come in on top of that, and the soft cost is the architectural firms that would design the school, your special inspections, your commissioning, your construction manager, and it's much easier and less expensive for these guys to build a new school because there's very little unknowns. And that soft cost would be roughly 6.8 million, as you can see on the chart. If we were to consider option 2, we're at 10.5 million almost because of all the unknowns, and I think that number would grow as the project unfolded when you deal with a building built in 1910. And on that point, we think that Washington School is the oldest operating public school in Connecticut. Weathersfield claims to have an older school, but when you look into that, you see a small piece of the old school next to a very new school. Washington has been pretty much unchanged with the exception of a gym addition since 1910. The reimbursement rate actually goes down for a new building versus a renovate as new, and you lose approximately 10 points. And then there's further reductions based on the size of the school. The state requires that you meet a space standard that no town or city can meet, and that's a way of reducing the reimbursement even more. And in this case, it brings us down to about 57.8% versus 71.5%. There is an exception for any building built before 1950 because there's so few of them in operation. The state allows for an exception on space for an older building, knowing that you can't move walls and things. If you go down to the West Haven share, on a new building, we're roughly 16.3 million versus 12.3 on a renovate. And there is a penalty applied because we did put new windows in the building approximately 15 years ago, and that's prorated over 20 years. So there'd be a small penalty, and that's the case in every school project you do. No one does not work on their schools for 20 years to avoid a penalty, so you always get some sort of penalty. Now, what's interesting is when you put this program together and you look at it carefully, a new building would allow the existing school to be utilized as is now, where a renovate as new would require the students leave the building. And when 430 students leave the building, the only option we have is portable classrooms. And they would have to be put on land near the school that we would rent, maybe across the street off of Campbell Avenue or something. And the state absolutely will not give you a cent for a portable classroom. So there's a $3 million increase for the portable classrooms and a $720,000 land rental, which brings the renovate as new status very close to the same cost as a new building. The process is this. If we do nothing, you're going to be putting somewhere in the area of $10 million into that building in the next 10 years. And unfortunately, it may come in waves of things failing or safety concerns being brought up or even a potential lawsuit. And you're going to be forced to do work in this building in piecemeal. It will cost you more. If you begin the process by approving the resolution tonight, we at least can then apply to the state and ask them if they would reimburse us to build a new school. It doesn't commit you. It doesn't say you're spending any money. It just allows us to apply. The deadline for the application is June 30th. However, the state will not accept the application unless the council approves their own minutes, which means we have less time because you guys meet every 2 weeks or something. There is a 11% holdback when the state pays us. So when we get a check, for example, for the high school for reimbursement, and let's say that check is $100,000 reimbursement, it comes monthly, they give us $89,000. And at the end of the project, they do an audit, and then you get back your 11%. The same thing occurs here at Washington School. If the city moves ahead, there's an 11% holdback, and that's why they're asking you to appropriate $19,390,000. Now, here's the process. If the council approves the resolutions that we've presented tonight, that allows us to submit to the state once you approve your minutes. Okay. A year goes by and we will not hear from the state until next June. Next June, we will receive a letter from the state saying either you were denied or you were approved. If we are approved, then at that point, the council has to consider if the funds exist or what is the possibility of doing the job. The state gives you 1 year to make that decision. There are exceptions in that you can ask for additional years, like we did with the high school, where you can push the project down the road and get more time to think about how to pay for it. At least in doing this, you'll be in a position to know if the state's going to even approve you and the city, and you will have the opportunity to take advantage of that if, in fact, you're approved. Now, if the state approves us, the council has a year to fund it, to come up with a funding plan, or they can get an extension. And then we're looking at another year to design this thing. That design requires putting the architectural out to bid, finding a construction manager. All has to be done through a bidding process. It takes months and months. And then the architect has to begin a design process. There's a lot of dialogue with the Board of Ed, with the council, with the superintendent, with the mayor. So we're we're a couple years away from even considering those steps. Tonight, we're just asking that you look at the $39,500 that we spent. It got us this information, and we'd like to be able to present the application to the state sometime in June with your resolutions. This is an example of what the new school could look like. It would be a 2-story structure, air-conditioned. The school would have all the latest security features. The school would be state-of-the-art with Wi-Fi. And we think, based on what we're seeing at the high school, our operating costs for this school at a minimum would drop about $60,000 a year. You want to say something? I have the superintendent here. I want to say a few things. I'm going to put it over to him for just a second. The other nice thing about this design is it pushes the school back away from the roads, and the neighborhood is not going to have school buses and parent drop-off in their living room anymore. It'll actually be on the site that the school owns, not in the street like we're seeing now. Last page.
I think I'm on.
Yeah.
Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
You guys hear Neil?
Yeah, so this is something that we've been looking at for a long time. And look, the school is 110 years old. It is a difficult school to work on. It's a difficult school to keep up with. As Ken mentioned, there's a tremendous amount of work that's going to need to be done one way or the other over the course of the next 10 years. The school is in the highest need area of the city. In my opinion, it is inadequate facility for any students. But it seems to me that your population, which has a high EL population, an extremely high minority population, a very high transient population, those kids in that building deserve better than what they're getting right now. Again, if you look at some of the additions and things that were done to the schools in other areas of town, and what that building's been allowed to become, the kids in that area, the families in that area deserve better. So I would certainly support moving this forward and allowing us to continue to plan with the new building.
Any questions for us?
One thing, if we can just mute ourselves when somebody else has the floor. Is that you completed your presentation, Ken? Is that what you said? Does anyone else have any questions?
Yeah, I've shown everything up.
Okay. Chairwoman Waterfield, did you want to say anything before we started with our questions?
Yeah, I just wanted to add, we're all, I think, on the same page about increasing the vitality of our city and bringing on families into our city. And one of the ways to do that is to give excellent educational opportunities, which I think that we are doing at the high school right now, and with some of the other school buildings that we've been able to renovate and bring some great technology in. And like the superintendent said, I definitely feel that this population of kids is vastly underserved at the present time, and really, really could make great strides with the support of a friendly, healthy, technology efficient building. So I just wanted to ask for your support to move this project forward, to at least investigate the possibility if the state will allow us to move forward on this. And I appreciate your time listening to our presentation and the support that you've given the board.
Thank you. Are there any questions? Ken, are you done sharing? Could you close this, and then we'd be able to see the whole council if they want to speak? I can only see like 3 people with it open. I'm going to open this up to the entire council as a whole. So there everybody is. Thank you, Ken. So do we have any questions? Does anyone, Councilwoman Finelli?
Thank you. Yeah, I just want to say I agree. Washington is obviously very outdated and desperately needs, either a new building or renovations. But I was just wondering, have you considered, if we were to go with the renovate as new option, since you said the big difference in what would make that a little more expensive is having to get the portable classrooms and the property fees for those. Have you thought about the possibility of using Malloy for the students for the years of renovation instead of portable classrooms as a way to save money, and possibly put like the copy center in a trailer for that time? I just think, like I said, I agree. We need a new, definitely that needs to be renovated. But I think there's something really unique about the fact that it's a 110-year-old building. Like, it is really cool from the outside if we could somehow just gut it and make the inside all brand new. And also if that could be a savings to have those kids go to school, and utilize the Malloy building instead.
All right, so regarding Malloy is not a school. Malloy was closed down. If you reopen Malloy and you bring 430 kids in, which you can't fit, by the way, because it only holds 260 kids. You would have to renovate that school, or that building, I should say, to today's standards. Malloy was closed down as a school. To reopen it would cost a lot of money, and it's not accessible, and it doesn't fit the bill because it's half the size of what we need. And as far as renovate as new, there's a lot of risk in renovating a 110-year-old building. And I think what's going to happen is if that is chosen, there's too many unknowns on the job to maintain a budget. What we've seen at the high school is the 108,000 square feet that we built new went very smooth with very few change orders. When we took down the other wings to the superstructure, which was the steel and the concrete, and all of a sudden we're finding out that the slabs on the various levels don't extend out far enough. $170,000 change order. We're finding out that beams are not where they're supposed to be, or floors are not thick enough, and so on and so forth. So your greatest risk is renovating existing buildings, and when you start renovating a building from 1910, I think the risk and the liability is going to be super high.
Thank you.
Are you all set, Councilwoman Finelli? Yes. Any other questions? Councilman Bruno?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Is Lee on this call with us? Is he on the Lee available? No. Okay. My question was, if we were to approve of the resolution that they're requesting, are we safe with that? Is that only approval of the resolution moving this forward? And they have to, you know what I'm saying? I want to know what it was on.
So obviously, I'm not an attorney, but I will tell you that the council, I think 3 months ago, approved this exact resolution for the Bailey roof. Same 4 resolutions. You guys approved, I think it was 600 or 650,000. To date, we have not heard back from the state if the Bailey roof is approved, and we expect to hear back soon. Assuming that it is approved, I then have to go back to the council to get financing for it. The mayor has to sign a contract. These 4 motions are the exact same 4 motions that were done on the Bailey roof, and the same 4 motions that were done on the high school, and we had the same questions at that time. The difference was it was a $109 million commitment from the city on paper. But, we've had situations in town, most notably Malloy, where the state actually approved an $8 million renovation to Malloy, and then it was never acted on. And even though the council approved the $8 million, it didn't cost us anything. The state just withdrew the funding. That's how this works.
Thank you.
You all set, Councilman Bruno? Yes. Councilwoman Johnston?
Sorry about that. I lost my mute button. Just a clarifying question and then also a quick comment. Earlier when you were giving your presentation, you mentioned 39,000 spent. And I just was wondering, what was that on feasibility study or is that what you're asking for now? I was just wondering what that was and where that money came from or is coming from.
So I can answer part of your question. The 39,500, which has already been spent but not paid, by the way, it just got recently billed out, was for the feasibility study. Approximately a year ago, we had communications with the mayor. Lee was on the communications, as well as your finance director and the superintendent. And I was given permission from the mayor to put it out to bid, the feasibility study. It went out to bid. The bids came back, and the lowest bid was 39.5. and that was on February 11th of 2020. At that point, a contract was signed by the mayor to do the work, feasibility study. 2019? No, 2020. Yeah. Right. We can't. We have to go through this process to submit to the state. The feasibility study is the one part of the application, and for $39,500, the entire application will be submitted if and only if the council approves the resolutions. And it was also brought before the Board of Ed, who did approve their resolutions.
Councilwoman Johnston, you still have the floor.
My other part was a comment, really. Earlier, you said that you showed some council members today the moisture in the building. I don't know if there was a meeting of any kind about that, but I'd love to be included in meetings like that so I could tell my constituents about such matters. Just a request.
Yeah, I reached out to a couple council people that I knew, asked them to call everybody they could. I think we had maybe 6 or 7 council people come through at different times. That offer is still out there, and if you're available, I can bring you there as soon as tomorrow.
Mayor Rossi, would you like to answer the question for Councilwoman Johnston as to where the money's coming from? Since
that be me, where the money is coming from. We will find it somewhere in the budget. I believe very strongly in this project. I sat where all of you sat several years ago, probably close to a decade now, and when we did the West Haven High School. When I first got on the council, the only thing that had been done, they hadn't built any new schools. They put additions on that had to either be redone, had serious issues. I believe our children deserve this. I believe our children should have a state-of-the-art school. And so no matter what we have to do, we will find the money. I am still hopeful that because of all that's going on with the virus and everything else, that hopefully the Board of Ed might be able to identify that if they have any additional funding. But we will go through every line item, because as I said, we're not, obviously some places or some departments are not spending what they would, not all of them, but some of them. I look at, we either start this process and we build a new school, or we're going to have to pay for repairs to the school. And that, to me, when I was on the council, that was my deciding point, because I had asked Ken Carney at the time, what would it cost to repair this school? And I found out the cost to repair the high school, and that one brought everything up. And in this particular case, Washington School is not even ADA compliant. To me, it's a no-brainer as far as, signing on, spending the money, and passing this resolution. Rather than trying to patch or put a Band-Aid on a 110-year-old school.
Okay, I think I appreciate all that information, but I think Councilman Johnston was asking, how are we going to pay the $39,000 bill? And how are we going to, so the bill's due now, the bill came in. So I think, I don't want to speak for you, Councilwoman Johnston, but that was the question. There's a bill due now for $39,000. Has Frank, or maybe Frank can answer it, how is he paying that bill?
Frank, do you want me to continue, or do you want to?
No, go ahead. Go ahead.
Okay. We're going to go through the line items. As I stated, that's not any different. We're almost to the end of the year at this point in time. We have a decent idea where we stand, because at least when COVID did hit, most of our tax collections were in. So we're going to go through and we will identify whether there are accounts that have overage amounts. And when we do, we will bring forward the transfer to the city council and transfer the money. Frank wants to talk.
Well, I mean, you can just imagine my concern, Frank, because I believe it was at the last council meeting, and correct me if I'm wrong, 2 weeks ago, I asked if there was any if there was any line items, anything that, any extras, and this bill needs to be paid for, as do, I guess, the schematics if we move forward. And I can appreciate that, we want this building to be built. I want this building to be built. It's across the street from my house. I see it every day. I live it every day. But I just want to do things a little bit differently. I don't want to figure out how I'm paying a bill after I get it when I knew for how many months beforehand the bill was coming. So, and just 2 weeks ago, I was told that we really didn't have anything in the line items. I mean, I can go back and watch the council meeting to make sure that's what I was told, but I'm pretty sure I was.
Bridget, can I answer that question? So can you hear me?
Yeah.
So in my opinion, this is the right way to do it. The city should be doing more feasibility studies. I'd rather pay to find out what's going to happen and down the road and what our needs are, rather than look at the hole in the roof to decide how we're going to pay for it. I think when we toured the building Friday, said, we happen to be really good at reacting to things in this city. We fix things that are broke, and that's okay, and it gets us along. However, the right way to do things is to plan projects out and to look a little bit ahead. And that's what was done in this case. I can't tell you what line item the money's going to be coming out of, but I can tell you, and I can take you around to our schools, and so could Ken, and show you money that's been wasted on projects because we've waited until it broke. We couldn't repair it any further. Our trucks don't work, and we're out of, they're in need of disrepair. Where's the money come from when that happens? I'll make the argument that the city is financially in the shape that it's in because that's the way we've done this over the years. This is a different way to do things. This is a way of looking ahead a little bit. And by the way, if we know it was coming, we'll be able to do some patchwork and repairs, understanding that it's short term because we have something long term to prepare for.
Right. I think you might have misunderstood where I was going with that, Neil. I do remember when you came in front of us, or Ken came in front of us in regards to Bailey School. It was me at that time that said, well, what about the rest of the schools? When are we going to go do that study? And I think Ken told me that you guys were doing that study. This is just right now how we're going to pay the $39,000 bill. It is basically, the bill is in. How do we pay that? And where is the money coming from? That is the question that Councilwoman Johnston asked. And it is the question that is still on the table that hasn't been answered. So I do appreciate all that information, Neil, and I can't agree with you more. We need to do better in regards to planning. Go ahead, Frank. I'm sorry.
No, I was just going to say a suggestion would be you have money that was in the current year budget for a parking study that never went anywhere and a pension study that never went anywhere, which is why it's appearing again in next year's budget. One thing is you could make a transfer from those particular line items to cover this bill.
Councilwoman Johnston.
Thank you. Just a really quick point of order. I was just asking a question about the money. I don't want that to be conflated with my any implication that I'm not interested in the project or in supporting this type of planning. I mean, I watched the Board of Ed meeting. I read the presentation. I think it makes sense to build a new school over all that it would take to renovate it. So I just wanted to be clear that I would like those two things not to be conflated.
Good. Where is Bridget?
Does anyone else have any additional questions? Mayor Rossi, one moment, please. Councilman Cohen.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Probably a silly question, but I'm going to ask Ken anyway. the 39.5 for the feasibility study, would there be any possibility whatsoever a year or more from now, if we get approval from the state for the grants, that this would also be reimbursed at any percentage? Or is that just city pays it 100%?
Perhaps I should have started my presentation with the 39.5, that it is reimbursable to the tune of either 67 or 77%.
You said, so really, I'm sorry, I shouldn't have, sorry. Well, I that's what I thought you said, so I know we got caught up in this. At the end of the day, the city will eventually, if everything gets approved, my math is correct, be paying $9,000 for it thereabouts, just off the top of my head. So, okay, that was one of my questions. And everybody else has asked everything else, and I am totally for this new school. And I think it's going to, hope, fingers crossed, we will get whatever funding is necessary. And thanks everyone for all the hard work that's gone into this. That's all I had. Thank you.
Does anyone else, Chairman Quagliani?
I think my first question is for the mayor. Has Lee reviewed any of this? If this resolution or this process is, I guess, I know he's not here. I asked that he be here, but would you know if he's reviewed this or not?
I don't know if he reviewed this one, but I do know that he reviewed and supported and was on the Bailey roof one. So the verbiage is pretty much the same. You don't put the money up front. We're not committing to the money. And just my own history is I sat, again, several years ago, and the language was the same. Basically, they're looking for a commitment. They want a commitment from the council that you're interested. It's not to the point where it's going to be binding or anything at all like that. We're just filling out an application to find out if we can secure the reimbursement rate. And the reason I know this is because if we were actually committing to a certain amount of money, I would have had to sign a contract. You would have had to approve it, and there would have been a contract with it similar to ADP or any of the other contractual things when you're signing on. This is just an application process. If it comes back and we don't get the funding, then we don't get the funding. If we get the funding and for some reason, God forbid, something horrible happen, which I'm not hoping that, I'm hoping everything goes well. But say it did, that we decided, heck, we can't do this school right now, then we could make that decision as well. And that was the same set of facts and circumstances that was brought before me as a council member, not only once, but 2 or 3 times, because we had to make some changes and different things like that. I hope I answered your question.
Good, thank you. And my next one's for Frank. So Frank, nowhere in the 5-year capital plan does it speak to Washington School. So I guess the question is can we, and I don't know if you can answer this, but can we make a resolution for a project that's not part of our capital plan at this point?
It says yes, drop it.
Yeah, I think the way the file came into me, it was a little confusing. It was broken up into 2 different pages, so a piece of it was missed. The Washington School was not slated until fiscal 23 anyway in the capital plan that came in. So since this council has not approved, as I understand it, has not approved officially the 5-year capital plan, they could make a motion to add items to it. So at least it's there, it's visible. Should the state decide to look to make sure that we're committed to this.
Yeah, and it's just, I don't know if you've seen the resolution. It's a 4-part resolution. So the first part basically says that we're asking the state to accept or reject a grant for the new Washington School. I personally don't have a concern with that. The second part names the building committee. That's pretty benign. The third part talks about we're authorizing the preparation of these schematic drawings and specifications, which I think that's already been done, and they've already done the work, and we now have to find the money for it. But the last part concerns me. It says, resolved that the West Haven City Council authorizes the city of West Haven to fund the new Washington Elementary School for the amount of $19,390,171. That part concerns me because that doesn't look like it's optional. Hey, you're on mute, Frank.
Sorry. Yeah, that's nowhere in the plan. And even in the plan that was submitted by the Board of Ed, I couldn't find that anywhere in it. So that would have to be added to the 5-year plan.
So can we work, could we take that part of the resolution out?
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
All right, so a couple things, Mr. Chairman. First of all, it says funding of the new Washington Elementary School. There is no new Washington Elementary School. In order for there to be a new elementary school, you have to go through 5 or 6 more steps, which requires the resolutions, further resolutions from the council before we can even get to a new elementary school. It doesn't exist. My suggestion is that you approve the motion on the stipulation that your corporation council reviews it before we submit it to the state. This is the standard resolution we use for the high school. It is the standard resolution we use for Bailey and every other reimbursable project. If we fail to include this, the state will reject the application and we will have to wait another year. And that Washington cannot wait another year. You're going to incur costs.
So Frank, we would have to update our 5-year plan that's on the agenda tonight, correct? Because nowhere on that plan does it reflect the school.
That's correct. It would have to be updated at least to cover the partial roof replacement project.
What partial roof replacement?
On the resolution that I have that was sent in the package, and I think, Chairman, correct me if I'm wrong, this is the issue, is that the last item is that resolved, the city of West Haven authorizes the council authorizes the city of West Haven to fund the partial roof replacement at the elementary school for the amount of, I think it was $405,000. Is that the number?
Yeah. So Frank, we since then got a amended resolution that we got in our email just before the meeting, and that was 4 parts that I read off, that we authorized them to apply for the grant, that we established the building committee, and that last piece there is that we authorized the amount of that 19 million change. So the roof isn't in there.
Oh, okay. No, I haven't seen that one.
I just texted you, Frank.
So I guess the question that I would have, is similar to the chairman's then. Assuming the council approves this $19 million project tonight and it goes to the state says yes, and then the city inherits a building, finds some money, does what they don't need it anymore. I'm not locked into that 19 million bond, right?
Never. No, sir.
7 years to get the high school actually started and off the ground prior to spending any money. We extended it by doing some small jobs.
They can't hear you. They can't hear you.
Yeah.
Oh, right.
We can hear you, Ken.
Oh, okay. So Neil had just brought the point that it took 7 or 8 years for us to get the high school off the project, going. And we actually almost lost it twice. I remember one day, long after the council approved the $109 million appropriation, I had to drive to West Hartford, meet with an asbestos contractor, and bring the paperwork back for the mayor to sign, which proved to the state that we started the job. Had we not done that on that particular day, our 365 days had run out, we would have lost the funding. We have history with Malloy School. There was the same exact thing from the council, same exact language for $8 million at Malloy. There was a change in mayors. Mayor Picard came in and said, I'm not doing Malloy, and he never funded it, and we lost the funding. This is not you guys funding this project. This is us submitting an application to find out if they'll reimburse us, at which point It goes back to the council and you have to decide if you can afford it.
There's a big difference between a resolution and an ordinance. An ordinance is a law that you guys pass. A resolution is an almost like this is what we believe or this is what we commit or submit to. An ordinance is law.
So, I mean, I'll yield the floor. Just my only comment is again, it seems to be that everybody else is on board and understands the project and the council's an afterthought, right? So in my mind, you know, I think it would have been helpful if we knew about this was taking place and it was reviewed by the city attorney with a cover letter prior to coming to the council. Now, that's not a shot at the project because I think, you know, as Councilwoman Johnson said and others have said, I think we recognize the need for it. I just, my concern is the process. So I'm hoping that we could tighten things up as we go forward and that, you know, we, especially with these virtual meetings, that we have an opportunity to discuss these, park them so that the public could weigh in and then vote on them on a subsequent meeting. But lately it seems like, you know, we're always under the gun and I just ask for a little bit more deference going forward. Thank you, Chairwoman Hosky.
Does anyone else have any questions? Councilman Cohen?
Yes, just a comment. I've looked through my emails and I don't have that amended resolution for the entire school. I just have the partial roof replacement. So if something was sent just prior to the meeting, I don't believe I have it. And if someone can forward it to me, but it's just a change of language from partial roof replacement to funding the entire school, you know, I just need clarity because I don't have that document in front of me. Thank you.
Anyone else want to make a comment? Councilwoman Hamilton?
Just for clarification, I am for a new school too. However, I just wanted some clarification. You said that there's no Wi-Fi in there, Ken, and that there can't be. Even under the renovation, would they be able to have Wi-Fi?
Yes. We renovated the school with a lot more equipment than what a new school would demand. You could have Wi-Fi. That's correct.
Thank you. That's all.
Councilman Donovan, did you want to say something? No? Okay. Anyone else? Mayor Rossi?
I'll try and address everything that I heard. First off, as far as the 5-year capital plan, at this point in time, it shouldn't be in there because we don't even know yet if we're going to get the funding. And this is the way we proceeded the last time. How do you put something in your 5-year plan when we don't know if we're getting the funding? We don't know when it's supposed to come back a year. It's going to be a full year before anything. If anything, once we find out with the funding, then you put it in your 5-year plan. Right now, we're just applying for the funding. I mean, it's kind of like going out and, applying for a mortgage. You know, you usually have some kind of parameters in place. The house normally, you might get pre-approved, and that's kind of what we're looking at. We're trying to get pre-approved for it so that we're definitely going to get the funding. As far as the council being an afterthought, I mean, pretty much everybody knew we were going forward with this school. In fact, Chairwoman Hosky, I believe you were on the building committee. So we kind of knew that the school was getting built and that it was going to come before the council ahead of time. My understanding is that not all council people, because obviously Councilwoman Johnston hasn't gone, and I don't know if anybody else, but council people have been taken through, some of them, through the school and shown the deficiencies in the school. And I'm well aware already of the deficiencies in the school because unfortunately those deficiencies have been there many, many years. As far as any fat in the budget, there isn't fat in the budget. But as a budget, as we all know, is an estimate of revenue and expenditures. The closer you draw to the end of the year, some line items are going to be over and some line items are going to be under. Very rarely are you going to find a line item that's right on point. And I knew about the reimbursement of the 39.5 because once again, we had a feasibility study for the West Haven High School, and it is reimbursable. So we're kind of fronting the money that we're going to get back, hopefully once we get the, funding in place and the approval for the reimbursement. So again, there's not that there's fat in the budget. It's just that things change, and we have a big change this particular year, and it will flow into next year and hopefully not the year after. So as far as that, like they said, figured it was $9,000, and not to make a big deal, $9,000 is a big deal. But in a $165 million budget, I would imagine by the end of year's end, and we're almost to June now, we would be able to find $9,000. Again, doesn't mean there was fat. It means to the point of what I know a lot of people have talked about. Maybe there wasn't as much snow removal. Maybe a different line item came in differently. Maybe we got more revenue in a line item than we had anticipated. It's hard to do this in January, but when you're close to the end of the fiscal year, it's a lot easier to do it. And I am in favor of the project. I really believe everybody's questions are great because from what I can hear from the council, I believe everybody is in favor of this project, because anybody who has walked through Washington School knows it's long overdue. And quite frankly, I think that we should work with the Board of Education and kind of prioritize going forward. And it will be long after my time, if you will, but that, kind of prioritize the schools as to what we can do next, because right now there's other ones that are not in great shape as well. It's just that Washington School is, as the superintendent said, is extremely old and not ADA compliant, and there's a lot of problems with it. So once again, as I said, I just wanted to clear that up. If there's any other questions for me, as far as the resolution, it is the same language that Attorney Tiernan had approved for the Bailey roof. And so again, I like, who just said it, that the Ken Carney, that approve it with contingent upon Lee Tiernan's review. And that if that would give a comfort level, so everybody would be pleased that Lee Tiernan it has reviewed the contract or the application resolution.
Okay, so I'm going to say this just as follow-up, because I think sometimes we kind of miss the message. And Neil and Ken and Kevin, I think the council's message is that I was on that committee. I was, but unfortunately, I didn't know it was my job to then communicate everything about this project to the city council. I didn't know. And if I had a conversation with Councilwoman McGee when we went to Dunkin' Donuts for coffee and I was talking about the Washington School project, I don't think that she would have taken that as her notice. So we're not asking for anything but this idea that the perception is, if I might speak for Chairman Quagliani, is that we are an afterthought. If you are moving to do something, if you can take it as a task item, that you communicate that to us, that you can actually see in your Outlook box that's sent, that it says communication to the council that we're we're doing something down at Savin Rock School. This isn't to point fingers. This isn't to make anybody feel that we feel that you've done anything wrong. It's just that we feel that we are sometimes brought in at the tail end of things. Take that as you will, but unfortunately, when I was brought in on that committee, I didn't know it was my job to then communicate to everybody else. I just I enjoyed being part of that. So with that said, this is for just the finance committee members that I would like to bring this out favorably. Do all in favor? The 5. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries. Thank you. We're on to communication B. I don't need to do B and C, do I, Stacy? The refunds? I'm kind of out of sorts. You're muted. You read that into the, right?
I read those in later.
Okay, thank you. Communication D, we have before us from Housing Specialist John Bernardo in regards to the Community Development's Neighborhood Assistance Program. I would like to make a motion to bring this out favorably.
So moved.
Councilwoman Hamilton for the first and Councilman Cohen and Massaro for a second. Is there any discussion? All in favor? Any abstentions?
This is Councilman Cohen. I need to abstain because I'm on the board of directors of the West Haven Community House, so I'll be
Okay,
abstaining.
thank you. Any opposed? Motion carries. Communication from Finance Director Frank Chaplinsky in regards to a transfer of funds for the West Haven Library. I would like to bring this out favorably.
John Bernardo has left the meeting.
Can I get a second? Councilman Cohen and Councilman Massaro and Bruno, thank you. Any discussion? Okay, all in favor? Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries. Turn the page. Communication H from Mayor Nancy R. Rossi in regards to the City of West Haven's 5-year plan. I would like to bring this motion out favorably.
So moved.
Councilwoman Hamilton, may I have a second? Councilman Bruno, any discussion on the 5-year plan? I'd like to open this up not only to the council, the Finance Committee, but the council as a whole. Is there any discussion on the 5-year plan? Councilwoman Hamilton?
I just noticed I have a little bit of a concern. I noticed that there's like 3 or 4 years of Allentown Fire Department that it's flat. And I wonder how concerned we should be about that. If somebody could let me know, Frank, should we be concerned about that? I mean, I'm happy, but I just don't want there to be a problem later.
No, I think we have, let's see, 1402. So I'm thinking that next year you should still be able to come in at the 1402. Some of that is some savings that you'll be seeing in the healthcare lines. I didn't see anything there that would jeopardize that. One thing to remember as well is that in the past years, there's been an annual payment of $80,000 for the truck. That stops in fiscal 21, I believe, is the last payment. So that the elimination of that payment also helps to keep the mill rate where it is.
Great, thank you.
Can I ask a question just as a follow-up to Councilwoman Hamilton, Frank? So when me and the Councilwoman were speaking in regards to the mill rate, because we were discussing it, due to the fact that the pension is so underfunded, couldn't we take that possible 0.43 and split it in half and do like and it's just a question. like do 0.22 and take that money that we're getting take 0.22 in 22 and take all that money that we would be getting and fund the pension. I mean, all I hear is how the fire department's pensions are just so underfunded. And wouldn't that help us? Wouldn't that $80,000 for the truck that we've been paying for year after year? Shouldn't we say, okay, well, we're used to paying that $80,000. Let's take that $80,000 and put it in the pension. Or do I just not understand it all and I'm just coming up with my out of the box thinking when it comes to doing things?
No, you certainly could take that 80,000 and apply it against the pension. Just give me 1 second here. If you did that, it would take the mill rate to 14.18 in fiscal 22. So a 0.16 increase. As opposed to, and that would make it a 0.27 increase in fiscal 23.
So but in your opinion, is $80,000 make a difference? I mean, I know anything makes a difference.
Yeah, I think any amount that you can add to the pension liability without putting an overdue burden on the taxpayers, I think is a good thing.
Okay. Can I ask another question? I've heard a lot of talk, and this goes to, our future planning, because I take this 5-year plan pretty seriously. Because I'm a planner, Frank. I can't even tell you how far in advance I plan. Has there been any conversations? Because I can't be the only one that's heard it, but maybe I am, so I'll make my announcement here today, that the Allentown fire districts want a new house. They want to build. It's my understanding they've been looking at property in and around Allentown to build. But I don't see that proposal, because this is a proposal, it's a plan to build anywhere. And if not, do you know why?
Nobody's come to me and said we need money for a new building.
Councilwoman Hamilton?
In speaking with the chairwoman, Iris Diaz, I'm being told that they want to put out a study first, and then they would proceed. Then they'll know where to proceed and how to proceed.
Yeah, I can tell you from experience that if you don't do a study as to where you want to put the building, it could be a real problem.
Well, it's a real problem that our finance director doesn't even know that they're looking to. But no, thank you, Councilwoman Hamilton. I'm just saying 5 years down the road, it's nowhere to be. And I know they want to do a study, and I'm just wondering about the planning. Does anyone else have any questions? Councilwoman Massaro?
Still in the 5-year plan, Frank, can't we just put money aside for the future planning of building one? Because it's definitely needed there. It's been needed maybe 10, 15 years ago, because one station, they outgrow it. It's too small. And the station by Admiral Street is can't be redone, can't be, actually it's not feasible to keep it much longer. Can we put a line item in the 5-year plan just to put money aside for that, for the future? Because even if you put a 10,000 or 20,000 or 50,000 in there, you're not going to build a firehouse with that amount of money, but you got to start. Why we find out about this plan.
Yeah, absolutely.
My other question is this, I was always told if you do a budget and you stay with the same mill rate for 3 years, your third year, you run into a problem of more expenses than what you're taking in. I was always told that when I ran the department and when we had a budget, that was one of the reasons why the city took us over, because I ran 2 years with the same mill rate. Then we started the third year, our expenses were eating up the mill rate I had for the 2 previous years. Would that happen to the Allentown Fire Department this time again by doing this with a 14.02?
Yeah, I think if all the line items were consistent year over year, then yes, that's definitely going to be an issue. So, for example, if there was still another $80,000 payment for the truck, and we still held the mill rate at 1402, that would be a definite problem. But because that line item does go down, offset by a couple of others, it does make sense. You could go a little more conservative if you wanted to say that maybe the revenues aren't going to come in as you would expect. But everything is pretty in line there. As to the question on the capital, I would definitely say yes. Anything you could tuck aside, even though, right, it's obviously not going to pay for the building, but at least you'd have money put aside maybe to cover a feasibility study or to cover architectural drawings or something of that nature. In the current year budget, there is $250,000 set aside for capital needs, and perhaps a piece of that can be tagged specific to a new station.
Thank you.
Is that all, Councilman Massaro?
Yes, Madam Chair.
Councilman Cohen?
Yes, Madam Chair. I just need a point of clarification. Are we voting to recognize the 5-year plan, or are we going to be voting on the 5-year plan that we approve or acknowledge it? What is going to be the wording of this resolution, just so I'm clear on what we're voting for?
I'm sorry. It is, we would be voting on the mayor's 5-year plan, or we could make, the motion I made was to make the vote on the 5-year plan. You, as always, are able to make any amendments as you see fit. You wanted to change a line item, you would do similar to how we did it for the budget.
Okay, so I'm sorry. So basically, it's to approve the mayor's 5-year plan. Okay. Then I have a comment then, if I may. Having most of us here having sat in at the MARB hearings, it's very apparent that in fiscal year 2022 and 2023, to kind of quote, I believe it was Secretary McCloy, says that we were kicking the can down the road, I think is the term that she basically used, where they're projecting, or initially they were projecting 0.73 mil increase and then a no mil increase, where now they're saying, well, you're recognizing or approving that you may have to do a 1.05 mil increase each of those 2 years. It doesn't really concern me right now, but I did want to point it out because as we've done in prior years, we worked together as a team to get that mill rate change, as they call it, further reduced. It just seemed to me that given that we're only going to be getting or allocated $2 million in 2022 and nothing in 2023, that this year is going to be very interesting to see how things go. That's all. Thank you.
No, thank you, Councilman Cohen. Does anyone else have any questions? Chairman?
Frank, good many of us were listening into the MARB twice last week, both on Tuesday and on Thursday, and paid attention to their comments. I want to specifically talk about the comment. I think there were a couple of 3 or maybe 4 MARB members that spoke about your projected tax revenue collection for FY21, and that it may be overly ambitious considering what we're facing with the virus and people out of work and so on and so forth. So they had a few had suggested, and I think you kind of took them through the modeling, there that, the potential for, I think we have a 98.4% tax collection rate. What would it, what would it look like at 97.6? And I think you did a couple of scenarios with them that, you were conservative in the budget, and there's some healthcare funding opportunities. It would be helpful for us, the council, to see like option 2. So if in fact that 98, my understanding is that, from what I understand of the MARB, they approved the FY21 budget subject to the approval of the 5-year plan. Now, what I don't know is if we leave it at 98.4 mils, are they going to accept the 5-year plan? You and the mayor have more history with them than I do, but would it make sense to have an option B ready to go in case that doesn't happen?
Yeah, I think that's a great question. And I'll say to you what I said to the MARB is that I have no idea what the impact of this is going to be. Hopefully we're coming out of the end of it. The CDC is now saying that the impact is far less than the disaster models that caused the shutdowns. So we may see a 98% collection rate by the end of the year. Clearly, probably Q1 would probably be under. And then as people pay the taxes later on in the year, we may recover some of that. That was, as you heard in the MARB meeting, was we used a 7% increase to the partnership plan premium. So if I do remodel that, it does come pretty close to the 0.8. If you give me just 1 minute here, I have the model open. If I go to the healthcare area and drop 5% in and change the collection rate to 97.6, it would put this year at just about a mil and next year at just a little over a mil as those savings get rippled through from the healthcare. So it's not that big of a difference between the 0.8 that was already adopted, but in fiscal 22, the 1.5, when we factor in the savings there and lower the collection rate, it does take it back to just about 1.2.
So I just want to make sure that you have what you need in order to get the 5-year plan approved. I don't want to have them say, okay, listen, we'd really rather see you drop the revenue, the mill rate collection assumption, and then you have to come back to us again to approve that. Yeah. I know there's some urgency to get this buttoned up. I just want to make sure that you have what you think you need.
I think we do. To be quite honest with you, I think my bigger concern is not necessarily the collection rate in fiscal 22. It's we have no idea what's going to happen with the revaluation. So we put a 2% revaluation growth in the grand list into the model. Originally, it was built with north of 3, but we ratcheted that back. If it comes in at 1 or no growth due to revaluation, that of course would impact the mill rate. The MARB has finally understood, though, that focusing on a mill rate without the grand list consideration is not the way to go. So they would be looking more at the taxation revenue as opposed to an absolute mill rate. And
when does that revaluation hit?
it will be used in the fiscal 22 budget. I won't see it until probably another couple of months.
So when will the residents see a revaluation statement come their way?
Mayor, what do you know when it happened last time? I would say that it probably wouldn't be until October or November timeframe by the time everything gets finalized and mailed out to the residents.
I agree, Frank. It is somewhere around that. I know that there hasn't been a reevaluation since I've been in office, but that being said, the way that they did the reevaluation was they kind of sent stuff out to everyone, and basically if you were the same, you signed it. And so a lot, you know, hopefully it's going to go up, and I know that houses in my neighborhood are selling for more than they did, but right now we don't know, but it should be sometime in the fall. And now we can find out from Anne Marie Gradoya tomorrow, because she'll have a very good timetable.
Thank you. I'm all set, Council.
Do we have any other questions? Okay. I have questions. Frank or the mayor or whomever, if I could just request that the next time we send a packet with so many pages that we possibly put numbers on them, so that when we, what I'm about to refer to, it is, no, I'm just looking for it, hold on. It says mill rate calculation general fund. Does everybody have this with them? Because this is light reading, just joking. So as you both know, I asked for a reconciliation of the capital non-reoccurring accounts. And I'm sure Mayor Rossi can attest to, she reminds us when she was sitting in our seats that these accounts and the monies that are in them are very important. So I'm not comfortable voting on this until I get a reconciliation of that account. So as soon as I get that, we can move forward. But one of the things about this, when I look at the capital non-reoccurring, you see that a mill rate is attached to the amounts that are there for each of the years. So in FY21, it's $337,966. That is a 0.12 mill rate increase. So the mill rate will be, that's the calculation. So FY 2022, it's a 0.21 for $587,000. And then the next year it's $599 for a mill rate of 0.22, then $611, then $623. What is that money? What is $587,000? What is, and Frank, you know, we've had this discussion. I went into the capital non-reoccurring this year, and there are just items in there that shouldn't be in there. And I don't see where in this anywhere it tells me in 2022 what we're spending $587,000 on, or I mean, because that's a $250,000 increase from 2021. That's huge. Like, what are we doing with that? Especially when you're talking about the mill rate is going to be 0.21 because of it, go up 0.21 because of it.
Yeah, you're not going to see an item breakdown in the out years. As to the increase, the large increase over 22, as you recall in the fiscal 21 and in fiscal 21 budget, capital non-recurring of practically everything. So in this plan, it puts line items back in.
Frank, I'm sorry, I didn't, the sentence cut off. It wasn't, I didn't hear what you said. Please stop.
So in the fiscal 21 budget, it was gutted from the initial 568,000 to roughly $300,000. In the 5-year plan, it assumes going back to the level that has been there in the past. So purchasing small equipment, such as snow blowers and hand lawn mowers or whatever the public works needs. It's something set aside for additional infrastructure for the IT department. It's putting money away for the next revaluation, so you don't have to put $200,000 in all at once, right? So it's a 5-year process for the revaluation. If it costs you $500,000 to do it, I would want to put aside $100,000 a year, so there isn't a large increase at any one given point in time. So the model assumes that there's going to be, and I believe it's a 2% increase in the capital non-recurring. Yes, 2% in the capital non-recurring each year as inflation would impact the line items that it's used for.
So basically, I just have an issue with that because, and tell me if I'm wrong, Frank, I thought capital non-recurring, if we are paying for something year after year after year, why isn't that in the department's budget? I don't understand. If IT needs an additional $142,000 a year then for his citywide infotech, his Exchange 2019, his, I don't know what, Windows server, then why isn't that being accounted for in the actual budget? Capital non-recurring, I thought was kind of like, I don't know.
Yeah, the items are annual costs. For example, there's a line item in there for the lease of the police vehicles, for the financing of the police vehicles. That could absolutely be rolled into the operating budget. It was not done here. All that would happen is that would be moved from capital non-recurring. It would be put up into IT or the police budget or to Public Works, and it would have no impact on the mill rate.
I guess I'm just not understanding if capital non-recurring, the way we're using it is just like, it's just a savings account that we're going in to spend for everyday stuff. Like it doesn't appear that it's, I mean, if this is what you're telling me, that we're projecting it out that far ahead, I just don't understand. And I have a huge problem with spending $150,000 on all this stuff that the IT department needs, then to find out, well, they need the same $150,000 for the next 5 years. I mean, I think we need to plan accordingly, but
you can certainly set capital non-recurring to whatever level you want it to be. The model is built so that it adds a 2% inflation factor on a starting point.
Okay. And what about this account being reconciled? What about it being so that we legitimately know what is happening in it?
Bob Z took a look at it last week or the week before. There are particular line items that are over budget, but the fund in and of itself is running favorable. So because it is a multi-year fund, for example, if appropriated $25,000 or $21,000 for GPS installations and never did it, that money stays in that fund until it gets reappropriated for somewhere else. I could get you an exact dollar amount as to what the fund balance is, but it would have to be tomorrow when I can get into the system.
No, and I can appreciate, well, I won't, I mean, and I know you're busy, but I've only been waiting for it. I mean, and now we have the 5-year plan before us, and we're raising the mill rate based on the capital non-recurring, but we don't have a true figure. And I don't think I would be doing my due diligence as a council person or the chairman of the finance committee to approve this without the necessary information. I mean, it just, I don't like that. I'm not comfortable with that. And to also say that I am not, I understand that Washington Elementary School is a proposed future project, but as I have communicated to all of the council people that I have spoken with, I think it's a little bit more than a proposal. I think that if we are going to do things differently, if we're going to live within our means, if we want a high school built, then we need to put, we want a Washington Elementary School built, a new project, then we need to plan for it. Because I am not going to get vested in it and figure out if whether or not we can pay for it after we get approval. Well, no. We need to be figuring it out now. Why not make it part of this so that we know what we need to do in regards to a mill rate, or we know what we need to do in regards to any of it to make it happen. I don't want to go back to Neil. I don't want to go back to the Board of Ed. I don't want to tell the kids that I see walking to school every day, like, oh, sorry, we didn't plan for it. Maybe next time. I agree, and I believe, I speak for all of the council. We expected to see that in here. We want to see the Washington School and the projected costs for it. So at this point, my ask is that we hold this in.
Can I be?
Sure, go ahead.
Okay. As far as the capital non-recurring, just so that you're aware, you may be able to get a bottom line, but this is no easy task. And I know, and I'd be curious to look at the report that Frank's looking at, because I pulled one when 6 months after I got in, and that was in 18. And in 18, it had an overall deficit. Yeah, there were some favorable lines, but there were more deficit lines. That being said, that maybe projects weren't done, but somebody has to, and I don't have the time, to be honest with you, and neither has Frank, with all the different meetings and everything and our budgetary stuff and the other things we have to do. But what has to be done is somebody has to go through that list and go to every department head to make sure that the funding was or was not spent. You just can't grab it out because it might have been spent in a different account or whatever. I know because I did this and I was able to find money, but it's a very labor intensive, and I believe I have said that previously, and that's why it hasn't been done. And so we're doing our best here, but finance is very light on personnel, and so is the rest of City Hall right now. So we're working as best we can to hold up the 5-year plan and not put it out to a vote because of the capital non-recurring, because that's not coming in, I don't believe, as a windfall. I know Frank said he didn't have the exact number, but it's not going to be like $1 million or $2 or $3 million to the good. It's just not, unless some magic happened between the middle of 18 and now. And maybe magic did happen. But all I'm saying is the longer the 5-year plan is not approved, and I believe a lot of you were on both of the meetings, not just the one meeting, that means our budget's not approved. So technically, even though we're printing our tax bills, we're not going to be able to send out our tax bills. If we don't send out our tax bills, we're going to have a cash flow problem. So all I'm asking is to pull the vote, and hopefully 7 people will vote yes, that we can move ahead with this. We will get you the information. But again, we've had many, many meetings, whether it be MARB, whether it be other meetings, whatever it may be. And so, I don't want to speak for Frank, but both of us spend many hours working on all of this, and we want to get it done. But there's only just so many hours in the day.
And I appreciate you giving us that information, but as you consistently remind me, when you were the finance chair and when you were a city council, you asked for things and you expected delivery on those things. So I appreciate what you want, but I can also appreciate what my council members are telling me. And brought this to a vote,
Has joined the meeting.
it will fail. Because I have asked, you gave us this last week. Some of us didn't have the time to look at it because, like you, most of us have other jobs and life things that might be preventing them. So we could roll the dice and see how it comes out, but chances are when I did my count, it won't pass. So I can appreciate you telling me all of that, but me being the finance chair now, my suggestion is that we hold this in committee. The council will have their time to come up with their questions, and you can be upset. I would just suggest next time maybe get it to us a little bit ahead of time. I will call a special meeting next week, and they'll be able to ask the questions as they want to, because that is what I believe to be the case. So I could be wrong. Stacy, can you let me know who put out the second for bringing this out favorably?
Yeah, we had Bruno.
Councilman Bruno, would you like to take back your second? It is completely up to you.
Yeah, I hit him.
Councilman Bruno, you muted yourself again, Councilman Bruno.
Okay, so I'm sorry, I had a little operating difficulty there. So you're saying that you want to take me to take back the second?
It is my ask that we hold this in committee. The only way to do that, it would be for you to take back your second. If you don't take back your second, we will vote to bring this out of committee. It is completely up to you.
I think that we'll vote to take it out of committee.
You want to vote to take it out of committee?
Yeah, let's vote to take it out of committee.
All in favor? So the vote is to bring this out of committee. You have to vote yes. Does anyone vote yes to bring this out of committee? All opposed? Any abstentions? Go ahead, Stacy.
We can only have the committee voting.
Right, it's just the committee. Oh yeah, it's just the finance committee. Okay, so this is Councilman Massaro, Councilman Bruno, Councilman Cohen, and Councilman Hamilton, and myself. Those opposed to bringing this out of committee, raise your hand. Any abstentions?
Robin
Hold on.
has left the meeting.
Bridget, I don't mean to interrupt, but you just said opposed, and can we just start over? Because I thought that a couple of people voted yes and no.
Yes.
Right.
Okay. All those can we unmute ourselves? We're not raising our hands, and we're going to do. Stacy, can we do a roll call vote? Would that be better?
Yes, I would like to do that. That's better. Thank you.
Stacy, thank you.
Okay, so we have a motion to approve out of committee. And I have first Councilwoman Hamilton.
No.
Councilman Bruno.
No.
Councilman Massaro.
No.
Councilman Cohen.
Yes.
And Chairman Hosky.
No.
So we only have 1 in favor and 4 opposed.
Motion fails. And your Finance Committee closes at 8:55, Chairman.
Thank you, Councilwoman Hosky. Next committee is the Public Works Committee, Councilman Cohen.
The time is 8:55 p.m. and the Public Works Committee is now in session. Present this evening are Councilman Massaro, Councilman Donovan, Councilwoman McGee, Councilman Bruno, and myself acting as chair. What is before us tonight is a request from Commissioner Tom McCarthy of Public Works that recommends putting 2 lights on the following utility poles. One is on Hubbard Road, number 2194, and the other one is in King Place right outside the VA, which is number 3277. I'd like to bring this motion out favorably. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Second from both Councilman Donovan and Councilman Bruno.
Councilman Cohen, point of order, you need someone to make the motion to approve first and then a second.
Okay, I think I had approved by Councilman Donovan and seconded, I believe it was by Councilman Bruno. My apologies. Thank you, Chairman. Okay, in terms of discussion, I just very quickly, both of these lights, as you saw from the attachments, the cost for them, the UI came out and inspected the lighting at Hubbard Park across the street, so it goes right into the parking lot, would not obstruct any houses or backyards, and the general cost comes out to about $234 a year for an LED floodlight. A similar lighting would also be for major safety reasons on King's Place. It's like pitch black there at night out by the VA. In both cases, I will tell you, because I invested already in the Hubbard Farms development, I will be abstaining from this vote, so I'm just presenting this information. Is there anyone else that'd like any discussion on this? Second, for any discussion? Do I have a motion to close discussion? Motion from Councilman Bruno.
You just need to call Councilman Cohen.
Yeah.
They're fine with it. They just call on the vote after discussions and concluded.
Okay, just no more discussion. All those in favor of passing? Any abstentions? Any noes? Against? Motion passes, or the recommendation passes unanimously. And that is the end of the Public Works Committee.
Not unanimously, majority. You abstained. Sorry.
Majority, thank you. Thank you. Thanks for reminding me. Thank you. The Public Works Committee is now closed and the time is 8:58. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman Cohen. Next committee is the Sustainability Committee, Councilwoman Finelli.
The time is 8:58 and the Sustainability Committee is now in session. Members present are Councilwoman Hamilton, Councilwoman Hosky, Councilwoman Johnston, Councilwoman O'Connor, and myself acting as chair. And I'm going to give the floor over to Robin Parsons. She's here tonight from the Sustainability team, and she is going to present the council with the annual Sustainability CT report. Robin, are you there?
I hope so. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can. Thank you.
I've had a lot of trouble keeping the audio on this. I logged in originally on the computer and then lost it and had to use the telephone. So I hope it stays connected for the whole thing. Hats off to all of you, because this is incredibly demanding, and I appreciate your efforts and patience to continue to meet under these conditions. Good evening, everybody. I've been listening for the past 2 hours and really appreciated the efforts you've made tonight. And I also want to say, before I say anything else, a concerned citizen, I want to thank you all for your diligence and your effective collaboration in addressing the fiscal year 21 budget. Just as a citizen, I'm really gratified by this evidence of your commitment to working for West Haven's long-term success. That said, I'm here tonight to review West Haven's participation in the Sustainable CT program over the past year. I've sent you all a copy of my report from last year, as many of the current members never saw it, and I thought it might be useful to the new members for context. I've also sent you a link and a PDF copy of our final certification report, again, because many current members probably never saw that either. I urge you to look at it as a quick reference to see where we are in the certification action categories. I was hoping to hand out a sheet showing those categories for easy reference, but I had to email that also. I don't know whether you got it. I sent it today. It's a one sheet list of the action categories, which will help orient you to the items that I'm going to be referring to in my report. Briefly, to review, and I'm trying to go fast because I know it's late and you guys are, have put in a lot of time. There are three main purposes of participating in the Sustainable CT program. The first is to align municipal priorities and practices with statewide best practice standards in 9 key areas of activity. That's where you look at the handout that shows the 9 key areas. The second purpose is to promote collaboration between municipalities in addressing the challenges involved in achieving those standards. And the third is to grant recognition to cities and towns for having instituted at least some best practices in each of the 9 key areas listed. Our record on making the most of these 3 opportunities is mixed. With respect to meeting statewide sustainability standards, in some of the action categories, our practices and priorities align closely with best practices. In others, they fall far short. We get extremely high marks for our participation in the West River Watershed Management Plan, as well as for our other municipal and regional plans that support well-stewarded land and natural resources. For instance, water course regulations and the federal floodplain easement program. We also rack up many points on account of the inclusion of sustainability concepts in our POCD, as well as in the plans I just mentioned relating to coastal resiliency and hazard mitigation. Together, these 2 action categories, number 2, well-stewarded land and natural resources, and number 4, dynamic and resilient planning, are responsible for at least 280 of the 390 points West Haven was awarded in the last certification cycle. That's the great news. The less great news is that among the remaining 7 action categories, we earned only 110 points. That low point total in those 7 categories highlights areas where we all know West Haven needs improvement. We do little to support number 1, which is a thriving local economy, or number 3, a vibrant and creative cultural ecosystem. Sorry. We haven't attended to creative placemaking. Our record on efficient physical infrastructure and operations, number 6, is fair to poor, and we are significantly behind neighboring and comparable cities and towns with respect to our transportation systems initiatives. That's number 5, and our strategic and inclusive public services, number 7. Basically, in those categories, we have done just enough to get credit for 1 or 2 actions. Why does this matter? Aside from obvious direct benefits that reduce our municipal expenses like energy efficiency or reduction in municipal solid waste. Establishing a visible record of pursuing sustainability helps to create the identity we need to attract the businesses and new residents who could help to revitalize the city. One of the ways we can send the message that we are receptive to their efforts is by signaling our commitment to becoming a Our collaboration with other municipalities to share information on sustainability efforts has been, to my knowledge, nil. I am not aware of any ongoing conversations between West Haven officials and officials from other towns on how they manage challenges both we and they share. My not knowing this for sure points to a central problem this initiative has been hampered by since the beginning. Although I've been the coordinator of the city's participation in the Sustainable CT initiative since 2018, my participation in municipal activities and discussions has been marginal at best. With the exception of the Planning and Zoning Department, no department heads or standing commission chairs have been in contact with me about using the Sustainable CT initiative for any purpose, much less for information sharing with other cities and towns. Hence, I may be out of the loop on what the city is doing with other municipalities. The third goal is to make sure municipalities get credit for what they have done. As you know by now, West Haven received Sustainable CT's bronze certification this past year based on having amassed over the required 200 points among the 9 action categories. In fact, due to our outstanding achievements in the 2 areas I mentioned above, we were just 10 points shy of what was needed for
Robin, I think we kind of lost you.
no credit and the ability to control their energy expenses going forward, and incremental efforts to move towards a citywide complete streets plan. The former is stalled until we get an okay from the administration to proceed. And to my knowledge, the latter is still in progress. In my presentation last year, I told you the reason I supported participating in this initiative was to give our municipal government a tool for setting priorities for itself and for developing a plan of action for achieving them. Regrettably, I can't say that has happened. In spite of a lot of work done researching and documenting what the city has and has not accomplished, not one employee or a commission member has been asked to meet with me on where the city stands and where the gaps are that ought to be addressed. The Sustainable CT action list is not being used for guidance at all. This is especially discouraging in the case of the Energy and Economic Development Commissions, just recently restaffed. This was also regrettably the case as regards the Charter Revision Commission. While I appreciate the incredible amount of time and effort that has been focused on responding to MARB requests and making tough financial decisions, I also believe a successful city has to be able to take advantage of opportunities as they arise. As I've said multiple times, the Sustainable CT program is a municipal initiative. I volunteered to lead it because there was no one on staff with the time or inclination to do that, but it is not a volunteer initiative. Right now, no one on staff or in an elected or appointed position has the responsibility to keep me informed.
Robin, we lost you again.
No one on the inside action is possible, or worse, action that is at cross purposes to the goal of achieving recognition for sustainability actions. The goal here is to up our game. I have heard MARB members mention repeatedly that they are looking to see the city do things differently than it has historically done them. Integrating the sustainability action list into current municipal operations is one small way the city could demonstrate it is trying to do just that. Okay, in March 2018, when I
Hang on, Robin, we lost you again.
Now, 2 years later, 106 communities are registered and 47, including West Haven, have been certified. I think it feels good to be in the first tier for a change. That said, over those 2 years, I haven't seen any indication the city wants to use the Sustainable CT Action List, either for guidance or for facilitating collaboration with other municipalities. If West Haven wants to join the other 14 cities and towns with silver certification, and even really more importantly, strive to make the city more successful, things have to change. The city will have to own its participation in this initiative. Until that happens, I've decided to step back from leading West Haven's sustainability efforts. I'm happy to continue to be the liaison with Sustainable CT, and I'm willing to handle filing details if and when West Haven decides to pursue silver certification. But I really need a clear indication from the city that it recognizes the need to integrate the sustainability action list into its priorities and operations in order to continue volunteering my assistance in this area. I thank you all for your time tonight. It's late. You've had so many things on your plate, and I appreciate so much your time and attention, and also the support many of you have offered along the way. It's been my pleasure getting to know many of you, and I hope we'll be able to work together in the months and years to come. I'm happy to answer questions now, or if time is too short, anytime in the future, feel free to ask me anything.
Does anyone have questions for Robin? And I apologize, Ron, do you know, I was able to put this chart up. Now I'm unsure how to get it down so I can see everyone. Do you know how I do that?
You know, you taught me before how to actually get it on the screen. I'll see what I can
learning as we go along here.
Oh, Crystal.
Sorry, guys.
Heart.
Wait, let me see if no, that's not working. No, that made it worse.
I will Control-Alt-D again.
I tried that. Oh, wait a minute. Do you wish to continue? I think I got it. No. Okay, that worked. Sorry about that, guys. Does anyone have any questions for Robin? Councilman Cohen? And I'm opening it up to the entire council, not just the Sustainability Committee. Barry?
Oh, thank you. I just thought of that as I raised my hand.
No, I thought it and I forgot to say it first, but so you're good. Thanks.
No, I just really wanted to state that, you know, I read over the report, Robin, and it's extremely ambitious. It's extremely passionate. But the one thing that really stuck out here, and it's probably not a question for you, but I'm sure something the mayor is considering anyway. And so if it seems as if that the lack of an energy commission, and I'm not sure where it stands, if it stands, but that energy commission would be very pivotal to a number of our small businesses in terms of the CONPACE program, in terms of energy savings for like the small businessman. I'm not too familiar with it, except that was the one thing that I felt you have so many initiatives here that are also worthwhile. I just grabbed onto this one because I really felt that it had the most potential, not just for one committee or commission like the Sustainability Committee, but to really get some moxie behind it, some horsepower behind it, because I'm thinking that something that is going to benefit energy consumption and savings would be very attractive. And so I don't really know, I'm out of line here, but I don't know if this is a question maybe for the mayor to address, if we're doing anything on that.
Oh, shoot, I just lost the audio.
If it's okay, yes, I've tried very, very hard to get members for the Energy Commission, and I think I scored 2 right now, which isn't even enough to have a quorum for the meeting. So Councilman Cohen, all the council people on here, if you know somebody willing to serve, because I do agree. It's funny, some boards and commissions people will line up for, but for whatever reason, and I don't understand why, because it's such an important part of all of the sustainability, but even for the city saving money, however, you want it. And yet, I guess it's not as, I don't know, it's not the happy committee, the sexy committee, I'll use that word, that police commissioners are. I have a line to get onto that. P&Z is another big one. So if anyone knows of somebody who wants to serve, I mean, the meetings aren't, that often. They can schedule them like quarterly or monthly or however they want to do it to get started up. But I need a resume and an ethics forum. And obviously I need minority representation, but please, I would welcome your assistance in all of that.
Yeah.
Anybody?
The reason why I close is I think there might, to your point, Mayor, I think a lot of people don't understand the importance of the opportunities of an energy commission because it's not sexy. But when I think of the energy commission, I think of an energy commission that's going to work with the Sustainability Committee. I think of an energy commission that's going to work with the Economic Development Commission. So I really think, and also with the small business that are looking for savings. So that was the one thing that stuck out in this report amongst other things. I know it's a late night, but I just wanted to kind of just give that a little bit of thought for everybody. Thanks so much. Thank you, Councilwoman Finelli.
And Mayor Rossi, I just have a question about that. How many people would you need for there to be a quorum on that?
Well, I need at least one more, but to be honest with you, then if somebody was sick, ideally 3 more would put us in good shape. And I'm almost positive that if we got that far, then I would get really crazy and wild that I'd want 2 more for alternates, because I believe it does have a provision for alternates, but I could check on the alternate. Ideally, I would just love to have that Energy Commission up and running. It really is a goal of mine, and I've tried, I've asked, and as I said, I got 2 people now, and that's as far as I've gotten.
Thank you. Does anyone else have any questions? Councilman Donovan?
Mine's more of a comment. First of all, Robin Parsons, the work you've done, I applaud the work you've done so far, the hard work you've put in, all the time and effort. And you and I have talked in the past, and I am here. So you know how to get a hold of me. If there's anything I can do to help in any way, shape, or form, my services are there for you. So I just want you to know that. And again, thank you for all the work you have done and trying to get West Haven on that sustainability effort. That's pretty much it. Just more of a comment.
May I say something? I don't know if I'm on or off.
Yes. Yep, you're on.
Okay. I just want to say, I think that the problem is the lack of connection. There is no connection between either the city or, for instance, committees that exist on the city council or commissions that exist on behalf of the city and the initiative. And if there's no connection, there's no point. It has to be used. In other words, whenever there's an issue that arises, whether it's transportation, whether it's energy, whether it's public lands, open space, I sent you that message today because for what
You're
Had been
cutting out
getting
again.
before.
Can you just repeat that because we couldn't hear it?
Okay.
Just when you talked about public lands, I think was the last thing we heard.
Yeah, I sent a message to Gary about that because I hadn't gotten a message about that meeting. For whatever reason, the city notification system doesn't seem to be functioning quite as it had been before the pandemic. So I only saw that after the fact, that there had been a meeting about that. It should go without saying that there is input from the sustainability position, from the sustainability CT action list to participate in something like that. What is the point? It can't be kept as like a pet in the corner. It has to be integrated in what the city is doing. Whatever that is. And that's the whole purpose of it. The purpose of it is to try to get what the city does as a matter.
Oh, we lost your sound again.
Can you hear me?
Now I can. Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
In and out. Yeah.
Did you hear what I said? That
at the end you cut off a little bit.
Okay. That the whole purpose of this is for the city to use it. The city can't put it in a box off to the side and say, oh, that's a nice little sideline. It has to be incorporated in what the city's doing. I don't hear anything.
No, we can hear it. No, thank you. And I think we definitely, going forward, we'll keep that in mind. And I'm not sure if you're talking about the public lands meeting last week, which that we just kind of discussed, city-owned properties that could potentially be sold. So we weren't actually talking about what could be done with the property. So I think maybe the next step, if we were to sell them or utilize them in some way, we definitely would bring, could try to bring the sustainability team in. But that's probably why you didn't hear about it. It was just city council members.
And it's not a big deal. It's the idea of it. It's the idea that if there is an issue, there needs to be sustainability input. I mean, that happened with the Charter Revision Commission. I mean, it's huge that I don't.
We kind of lost you there at the end.
That's what's been happening to me the whole evening. I'm sorry. I'm using an old computer.
No,
that's probably right. Okay.
I think Councilman Donovan, did you have a question or comment?
And I apologize. I didn't see that message until a little while ago when you said it on the instant message. I apologize for that. The reason why there was no like public input at that time. It was just more an information with my committee up there. We will be having another one that at that point the public could be involved with that. So with that in mind, I will definitely let you know about that one if that's the case. Absolutely.
Oh, Gary, please, I don't, I'm not trying to criticize you at all. This is not public input. This is supposed to be a city initiative. This is something that the city is supposed to be pursuing and advocating for. That's really what the issue is here.
We'll try and get that momentum going.
Okay.
Thank you, Chair. I'm all set.
Thank you. Does anyone else have any questions or comments? Okay, well, Robin, thank you so much for coming and presenting that to us tonight. I know, I want to thank you for all the work you've done. I know, like you said, it's a voluntary position that you're in right now, and you do a ton of work. For those that are not familiar with Robin and what she does, she does a lot. And so, we really appreciate it. And I just want to thank you for that. I think it's unfortunate if you're going to step down, and, hopefully you'll still be around to help out, because I know you have been a great resource and are very knowledgeable with all this. And I know it's been hard with the pandemic, like past few meetings, have been canceled because of it. So hopefully kind of when life goes back to normal, we can really get the ball rolling, or even, before then, hopefully with some of those initiatives. So thank you again, for all the time that you've put into this, and thank you for coming tonight and sticking it out for those 2 hours, because I know this was not an easy meeting to have to sit through. So, we thank you. And if no one has anything else, that will be the end of the Sustainability Committee portion at 9:26.
Thank you, Councilwoman Finelli. Next up, adoption of ordinances previously presented. No, I'm in the wrong spot. Next up, we will convene as a council and hear from committees. The first committee is the Finance Committee, Councilwoman Hosky.
Sorry, I'm trying to find the resolution. My phone locked up and it closed.
We could read it into the record if you want, Councilwoman Hosky.
I have to find it on my phone. I'm trying to. Are we talking about the same thing? I'm sorry, it's been a long night.
Yeah, I could read the resolution in if you'd like.
Oh, I found it. Thank you. To the Honorable City Council of the City of West Haven, your Committee on Finance, to whom was referred the matter of resolution concerning Washington Elementary School, reports that the committee met on the 26th day of May. This is the right. This isn't the new one. I'm trying to find the new one. I found it. Reports that the committee met on the 26th day of May 2020 to consider said matter. It is the unanimous opinion of the committee that the following motion be presented. Resolved that the West Haven City Council authorizes the West Haven Board of Ed to apply to the Commissioner of Administrative Services to accept or reject a grant for the new Washington Elementary School. Resolved that the West Haven Building Committee is hereby established as the building committee with regard to the new Washington Elementary School. Resolved that the West Haven City Council hereby authorizes at least the preparation of schematic drawings and outline specifications for the new Washington Elementary School. Resolved that the West Haven City Council authorizes the City of West Haven to fund the new Washington Elementary School for the amount of $19,390,171.
Councilwoman Hosky is A from Building Oversight Chairman Ken Carney in regards to resolutions concerning Washington Elementary School. Is there a second? Second by Councilman Hamilton, Councilman Massaro, Councilman Bruno, Councilman Cohen. Is there any discussion on this? I do have some discussion. I would like to amend the motion to make this subject to Corporation Council's review and approval. That's my amendment I would like to make. Is there a second to that amendment? Councilwoman Finelli, Bruno, Massaro. Is there any discussion on the amendment? Seeing none, all in favor of the amendment, signify by saying aye. Or showing aye. Got it. Any opposed to that amendment? Any abstentions to the amendment? Okay, the amendment carries. So now we will be having discussion on what I just read into the record with the amendment of the Corporation Council's review. Is there any further discussion on that? Seeing none, I'll call the vote. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? That motion carries unanimously.
I'm sorry, my turn. To the Honorable City Council. To the Honorable City Council of the City of West Haven, your Committee on Finance, to whom was referred the matter of Community Development's Neighborhood Assistance Program, reports that the committee met on the 26th day of May 2020 to consider said matter. It is the majority's opinion of the committee that the following motion be presented. Resolved, the City Council in the City of West Haven approves the Neighborhood Assistance Program received for 2020 submission by the Community Development Administration. Connecticut Radio Information System for $5,000, West Haven Community House for $110,000, and West Haven Child Development for $12,000. Ward Heitman House Museum Foundation for $20,000.
Councilwoman Hosky's brought forward communication from Housing Specialist John Bernardo in regards to Community Development's Neighborhood Assistance Program. Is there a second? Second, Councilwoman Johnston, Councilwoman Hamilton. Is there any discussion on this? Okay, seeing no discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Are there any opposed? Are there any abstentions?
Abstention.
I have to abstain because I'm on the advisory committee.
Okay, Councilman Cohen, Councilwoman O'Connor abstain, and I abstain as well. Councilman Quagliani, I sit on the board for the community house. Councilwoman Johnston as well, she sits on the board for the community house. So, Stacy, you have 7 votes?
Yes, we do.
Okay, so the motion carries by majority.
Keep thinking I'm unmuted. To the Honorable City Council of the City of West Haven, your Committee on Finance, to whom was referred the matter of a transfer of funds for the West Haven Library, reports that the committee met on the 26th day of May 2020 to consider said matter. It is the unanimous opinion of the committee that the following motion be presented. Resolved, the City Council in the City of West Haven approves the following current year budget transfer line item 11000010560009 designated contingency library decreases by $75,000. Line item 160010605100 regular wages increases by $75,000.
Councilwoman, Communication Finance Director Frank Chaplinsky in regards to a transfer of funds for the West Haven Library. Is there a second?
Second.
Second, Councilwoman O'Connor, Councilman Cohen, Councilman Bruno, Councilwoman Hamilton. Is there any discussion on the motion? I just do have one point of clarification. Even though the resolution said we're transferring it to library regular wages, the budget book says library expenses, so I want to be clear that the money is going for overall library expenses. Is there any other discussion on the matter? Seeing none, all in favor? Any opposed? Are there any abstentions? Seeing none, motion passes unanimously. Let me just say, Colleen, sorry you had to endure all this for no questions, but I'm sure you'll take it, right?
I'll take it. Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Good night.
Me? Are you,
Yes.
oh, okay. So communication H, for, the cities of West Haven's 5-year plan failed in committee, but we will be having a special meeting to be scheduled for next week. That's all I have.
Thank you, Councilwoman Hosky. Next committee is the Public Works Committee, Councilman Cohen.
To the Honorable City Council of the City of West Haven, your Committee on Public Works, to whom was referred the matter of street lighting and utility poles, reports that the committee met on the 26th of May, 2020 to consider said matter. It is the majority opinion of the committee that the following motion be presented. Resolved, the City Council of the City of West Haven approves Commissioner Thomas McCarthy's request to place lights on the following utility poles: UI number 2194 and UI number 3277.
Councilwoman Cohen has brought forward communication G from Commissioner McCarthy in regards to street lighting, utility poles, as was read into the record. Is there a second? Second, Councilwoman O'Connor, Councilman Bruno, Councilman Massaro. Is there any discussion on this? Councilman Donovan.
I didn't, what, they put a price tag on this yet?
I can speak to that if you like.
Please do.
Yes, the lighting at Hubbard, it's basically what you're talking about is a floodlight, a focused LED floodlight at Hubbard Farms. And the pricing sheet that you got was just about $235 a year is the utility cost. And in terms of the one that is on by the VA, that's also going to be a similar LED light there. So for both lights in total, you're talking about $480 total for the full year for both lights. Okay?
Thank you.
Is there any other discussion? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions?
Abstain.
Okay, and that motion passes by majority. Next up is the Sustainability Committee, Councilwoman Finelli.
To the Honorable City Council, the Committee on Sustainability reports that the committee met on the 26th day of May to listen to the Sustainability Team's annual report to the City Council, and there were no motions or resolutions made at that time. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilwoman Finelli. Next up is the adoption of ordinances previously presented. There are none. If I could go back to communication B and C for the clerk and have her read those into the record.
Okay, we have communication B from the tax collector in regards to overpayment refunds in relation to the governor's executive orders, which will be filed with tonight's minutes. And we also have communication C from the tax collector in regards to overpayment refunds for the month of May 2020, which will also be filed with tonight's minutes.
Thank you, Stacy. Are there any council liaison reports this evening? Councilman Bruno?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. On the police department, there is a quality of life patrol that started on the 22nd. It covers the beach, the boardwalks, and the parking lots. I had a conversation with Chief Perno. He assured me that they're going to start doing upping the patrols along Ocean Avenue, along South Street, Captain Thomas Boulevard near Jimmy's, and the problem we're having at Stowe's with parking lot overflow where we have a traffic issue there. I also talked to the traffic department about complaints of stop sign being not stopped at on Contact in Anawan. And the traffic department, I've noticed on my way to work every day, has been out there on a regular basis. I had a complaint that there were no cars stopping at the stop sign. That's all I got on that, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman Bruno. Are there any other council liaison reports? Councilman Massaro?
Not a liaison report. It's with the police department. In the past couple weeks, I had taxpayers calling me up about the police department, gathering up, bunching up together and stuff and everything. And I called Chief Pruno today and asked him about what was going on. And he told me they got a lot of new patrolmen and they're in training. So if anybody, any council people get any phone calls from taxpayers, please explain to them we got a bunch of new officers and they're in the process of training, and that would be cars together or people together talking while they're on duty. So they're not just sitting there BSing or, you know, having coffee. They're in training. So if anybody calls up and complains, that's what they're doing. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman Massaro. Are there any other council liaison reports? Seeing none, we're at new business. Is there any new business this evening? I just have one item, Mayor. Has there been any discussion regarding or decisions regarding summer camps at all? Do you know?
No, not yet. Tomorrow morning, I have actually a meeting with the group. We call it the reopening meeting. We're having one every Wednesday. So Mark Payne normally is attending that. But as of last week's meeting, no, there has not been. They're trying to look into different things, but it's kind of hard if you can only put together a group of, 10 children. So he's still trying to work it out, but he's a smart guy. If anybody can do it, I got faith in him. So.
Thank you, Mayor. Councilman Donovan.
Yeah, I wanted to bring this up. The maintenance on the kiosks. I tried one today. I don't know if they're online yet or not. They're not functioning. Is there a company that we have that is supposed to maintain these? Are they supposed to be up and running yet? Do we know? And so, we need to look at that. I'll bring up in the future about more of those, but yes.
Mayor, could you answer that, Mayor?
I also will have Joe Perno on the call tomorrow too. When we were doing for our plan for May and the rest of June, we had decided that it was going to be residents only and we weren't going to use the kiosks. So let me just find out if they're actually broken and need service or if somehow they implemented something, because we were enforcing residents only. And I saw even today when we were down the beach, the residents only sign and the constables were there all weekend. And I will tell you, I was there several times, and so was Maureen, our director of health. And we've seen a marked improvement over the last couple of weekends. And considering it was Memorial Day and some of the weather was nice anyway, it was a marked improvement. Parking, I could see that parking was being enforced because every lot was not being overfilled. So, but I will find out about that as well tomorrow.
Is there any other new business? Councilwoman Finelli.
This isn't actually new business, but it kind of just goes along with the question about beach parking. Sunday morning, I noticed the lots were closed off. Was that for any particular reason?
The reason is that whatever the hours are of the constables, that's when they're opening the lots, because otherwise there would be nobody there because a lot of people may not have beach stickers because they will be going out when the tax bills go out. So because of that, you need somebody to check to make sure somebody has a license and a matching registration and they're from West Haven. So they do shut off the lots with the constables, but they were open because I was there Sunday, I was there Saturday, but it was kind of, Saturday wasn't the best day weather, and yesterday as well. So I seen that the lots were not completely full, which means that the constables are definitely doing their job.
So just for future reference, then what time? I think it was probably around maybe 8 o'clock in the morning that I was down there.
The constable,
would they be?
I can find out the exact time, but it's not 8 o'clock in the morning, I don't believe. As I said, Mark Payne will be on the call tomorrow, so I will find out. And we did have constables at all of the lots, Savin Rock Conference Center lot, all of the city lots. And it did make a big improvement over the past couple of weekends, especially one of the weekends when it was nice, when there was just parking all over the place, and it was not, and it wasn't resident. So we're trying to keep it for right now. as I said, we're taking this week to week and to see how we progress. And then we'll see if we're going to keep residents only throughout the rest of the summer. But right now we have residents only through the end of June.
Is there any other new business? Seeing none, I will take a motion to adjourn. Councilwoman Massaro, seconded by Councilwoman Johnston. We are adjourned. Thank you very much, everybody. Have a good evening.
Night all. Good night.
Good night.